In this segment, Stephanie Miller and her guests catch us up on the latest when it comes to Trump and all his legal cases. Here's Stephanie.
Let's see where we are. It's Trump convicted felon week. Neal Katyal, legal lad.
We're finally at closing arguments after Trump's repeated attempts to delay this, to stop this trial, even just a couple days ago, rushing to the Court of Appeals, saying the judge has to be recused for bias and stuff. All of that has been beaten back by the Appellate Court in New York. And so now we are finally going to get to closing arguments. And I think what the Trump defense is going to do is basically to say this is not a case about Donald Trump. It's a case about Michael Cohen. And they'll put Michael Cohen on trial. They'll call him a liar. They'll say he was convicted because he was a liar, that he's in it for his own ends, that he's in it for ego because he's not a spurned lover, but a spurned lawyer by Donald Trump and the like.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to go well. One more.
And what the prosecution is going to say, picking up on what Andrew said just a moment ago, and I totally agree with it, is that this is not just a case about Michael Cohen. It's a case about Michael Cohen plus. Cohen is just gravy. And it's things like the Hope Hicks testimony that Andrew referred to, but it's also handwritten notes that we've got and those checks that you just flashed on the screen a moment ago, which picks up on paragraph 33 in the complaint. These are checks that Donald Trump himself signed. And so that shows knowledge of the whole scheme. And I think at the end of the day, the Trump defense is going to play trying to get to beyond a reasonable doubt, just getting one juror who's going to say, hey, I disagree, because in our system that means you can't put him in jail. And the prosecution is going to say, hey, this is common sense. We're talking about a guy, Donald Trump, who watched every penny. Do you really think that he would have been cool with all this money going out of his account without knowing it? Do you really think he would just reimburse $430,000 or whatever that number is without some knowledge about what was going on? Of course not. So it's a common sense case, and I suspect that it's going to be successful.
Yay!
He's a penny pincher and a micromanager.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a happy clappy thought to end this segment on. John Cooper says if Trump loses in November, he'll stand trial in 2025 for all his crimes, both state and federal. The bottom line is if Trump loses, he's going to prison. That's another reason to vote for Biden.
Yay! 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 Yay!
Did I read that right? Did Donald Trump try to ban...
It's not a holiday week. The holiday week is over.
Did Donald Trump try to ban rubber chickens at the Libertarian convention, or is that something someone made up? I think
the Libertarians did, actually.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy.
That's, well, now America's dead. Charlie, I was particularly thought of you. You wrote a great piece about the Supreme Court, and I just was so touched and saddened and moved by Justice Sotomayor talking about that she cries. She goes back into her office and cries over these Supreme Court decisions.
Yeah, that was a very telling admission from the justice. I wish she had gone back to her office and gotten an axe, but you can't have everything.
Tina, get me the axe. Wait, who was it? Was it Elena? Oh no, it wasn't her. It was Elena Kagan that threw shade at Alito in the latest dissent, where she used the term that reasoning is upside down two or three times.
That was when Alito accused her of misquoting her own decision.
Yeah.
He misquoting a decision that she had written.
Wow.
God, I can't help fantasize all the time about what a Supreme Court with more of Kagan's and Sotomayor's and Ketanji Brown Jackson's would be like. I mean, it's
this is all a function of the fact that you're going to die angry.
Yes. Well, we just mentioned that last hour that Hillary Clinton, right again, said people didn't take me seriously when I warned about the Supreme Court and about Roe. But I mean, that I don't think I've ever heard anything quite so personal from a justice about her talking about literally weeping. Reminds me of that, T-shirt of the Statue of Liberty crying.
The great cartoon of after Kennedy's assassination with Lincoln with his hood in his hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well,
I mean, it's an appalling situation, but it is nice, as you pointed out. It is nice to hear Sheldon Whitehouse audibly licking his chops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Jamie Raskin. I mean, well, when you were writing specifically about the South Carolina gerrymandering decision, You said the carefully manufactured conservative majority on this current court is hopelessly predictable and dismally partisan. You talked about it comes from two justices, Alito and Thomas. Both stand accused of using their positions to act not merely out of ideological rigidity, but out of spite and petty malice. Both had rough confirmation hearings. Neither seems to have gotten over the experience. God save us from whiny little privileged men, right? You're absolutely right.
Lord. How about the former president deciding that it's unfair that prosecution gets to go last?
Like in every court.
I mean, at times I don't mind that he's like a dangerous fascist, and because he clearly never watched a movie.
Right.
I know. It's ridiculous. Well, I hadn't heard this. Justice Thomas says he intends to remain on the court until 2034. Why that long? Because he said the liberals made my life miserable for 43 years. I'm going to make their lives miserable for 43 years.
Wow.
And you said it's hard to know when the justice started the clock on this one, since the liberals certainly did not make his life miserable when they created the race-based admission policy that got him into Holy Cross. I can't. I talk about this all the time. People that pull up the rope after them.
Yep.
Joy Reid talked about how Gwen Eiffel inspired her, and she was talking about it being like a relay race when she used to run track. That you hand the baton to the next person, and this is. But you're right. They're all pull the rope up people. Screw you, I got mine. Right?
Yeah, they're all hoping that nobody remembers anything.
Right. Right.
I happen to have, grown up. I'm the only male member of my family who didn't go to Holy Cross, and my cousin Joanne teaches there now.
Yeah.
So that's the family business. So I'm not going to forget anything about Holy Cross.
Yeah, my brother-in-law went to Holy Cross. Yeah, I mean, it's just, but I guess, to your larger point, I don't know if you happened to watch that. Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid at the Apollo was so fantastic, talking about
I'm saving that up for cocktail hour today.
There you go.
Talking about the Medgar and Murley book. But, Charlie, it really did hit me in the solar plexus this year, just them talking, Al Sharpton saying that, his is the only generation of civil rights activists that made it to 40 years old. They were all like Medgar assassinated at 39. And, the fact that half this country sits home and doesn't vote, it still breaks my heart every year.
It comes down to my perennial answer to people who say Martin Luther King wasn't divisive. I mean, if he wasn't divisive, how come somebody shot him in the head?
Yeah.
And one of the more moving experiences of my life was going to the house on Gines Avenue in Jackson where Medgar Evers was shot. Because when I went, and I don't know what the situation is now, nothing has changed. The bush that Byron D. LaBeckwith hid behind is still there. The stain on the driveway is still there.
Wow.
Or the carport. Yeah, it was quite a thing.
I mean,
and of course, Murley was just great. I mean, she's...
Yeah, but the way Joy talked
she's
about...
a rock.
Yeah, the way that she talked about that, they all just expected it. They all expected they were going to be killed for trying to, have black people be able to vote.